Race 2 of the Radical Australia Cup about to get underway, and I've got Mitch Nielsen. Father Brad is out there on track at the moment. These are very cool cars, Mitch.
They are, mate. Yeah, they're pretty well suited to a track like this, Phillip Island. Flat through turn one's pretty scary, but exciting at the same time. And first time here racing in a Radical, so a lot to learn, but we're getting there.
Decent little race as well. You'll be hopping in midpoint of this race?
Yeah. So plan is when the pit window opens, Dad will do 1 or 2 laps and then come in, and I'll try and do the longest stint for about half an hour. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for giving us a little bit of your time, Mitch. I'll let you go and get yourself ready, and we'll head up to commentary.
Thanks very much for your time there, Mitch. He's obviously a little bit nervous, first time on camera and certainly first time here at Phillip Island. Sean Henchwood has jumped right alongside me here in the comm booth for this one. 50 minutes of Radicals, Sean, and those Nielsen boys, father and son, they're doing okay, aren't they?
Mitch, in fact, when he pitted yesterday at the midpoint of the race, was leading and also quickest man on circuit. So it didn't take him too long to get up to speed, beaming from ear to ear on the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. He said, how good is this place and how good has it been this weekend? But here is the starting lineup for the second race. Kim Burke, the championship points leader, runaway championship points leader, on pole position alongside Chris Perini, the only man that can really challenge him now in the championship. Rowan Ross and Yasser Shahin on row 2. Peter Clare, Brad Nielsen, Sue Hughes, I think her son, John Collins, will start that car, and Nathan Kumar rear of field. Now, Nathan Kumar crossed the line second yesterday. Unfortunately for him, it's the second time it happened. It happened during qualifying. Very first time in a car, jumped into the car for the first time on Friday. Impressively, we spoke yesterday, into turn 1 flat by the third lap. Of course, Formula 3 experience allows you to lean on the aero and understand it's going to grip. He came in, whether it was a gram or a kilogram, underweight at the end of 31 laps yesterday. If the race had stopped, we'd had a safety car or something. If the race had stopped at 30 laps, he may well have been right on the weight, but that's forced him to go rear of field. That was really disappointing. He's very shattered by that, but he's been doing a brilliant job on his debut, and he's got to be proud of that.
Interesting, we talked about that, didn't we? Because this race had gone 27 and 28 laps, and then yesterday it went 30, so the fuel calculations obviously could have been a tad different. I bet they put an extra litre in there today.
Well, weight's so critical in these things, 700 kilos driver and car. It's all down to the weight. You don't want to end with an extra 10 kilos of fuel in the car, so it may well have been. But here they are on screen, the multicoloured car outside of screen, 68 entry, that is Kim Burke. He is very, very comfortably clear in this championship. In fact, 65 points up. That is light years. He did point out that no one else has been that far in advance in past years. Alongside him, Chris Perini, the young star who impressed from his opening event at Bathurst, has come from 2 wheels to 4, been very, very impressive. Rowan Ross, and it is James Winslow, a real sensation in one of these cars on the second row. Keep an eye on the 66 entry as they storm down this long front straight at Phillip Island. 3 wide already, and the man going through the middle is James Winslow. That is him taking the lead. The all-yellow helmet, of course, Le Mans LMP2 experience, a very serious campaign, a driver trainer too for the likes of Yasser Shahin, who he's sharing the drive with, and so too Kim Burke. So very instrumental and very involved in this Radical Australia Cup Championship.
Certainly James Winslow needs no introduction. Chris Perini right behind him. Well, at the start of this year needed an introduction, but he introduced himself very, very successfully at the start of this year, and rookie status is on his shoulders, but so is championship status. Down the inside looks Burke in the 68, but Perini sweeps right round the outside. It's a long way to travel, but just gently eases the door closed on championship leader Kim Burke.
It's going to be very interesting too. We're talking about tyres just earlier with Greg Russ down on the grid. Tyre temperature can take as many as 7 or 8 laps. Now, what's ambient temperature at the moment? About 13 degrees. I'll tell you an interesting story about yesterday's experience on tyre temperature with James Winslow. We'll get to that a little bit later, but he's been very quick. You can see the star performers, drivers with experience. There's 3 of them in this field: John Collins, Nathan Kumar, and of course James Winslow, multiple Formula 3 champion. They know how to make tyres work when the temperatures are cold. They will race away. That's exactly what Winslow's done already. You can see him. He's coming through the final corner now. The rest are just coming out of MG. They know how to make that work, but tyre temperature will be something that'll play into this race over the opening laps until certainly the drivers with lesser experience in the field, we call them gentlemen drivers in the past, amateurs, bronze FIA rated drivers is another way to term them. They will be a little bit more cautious about pushing the car too hard on cold tyres. That allows more of the experienced drivers to pull out that greater advantage, which is exactly what's happened. 3.3 seconds now James Winslow leads this field.
It's something you talk about right throughout motorsport. We talk about it in supercars with Craig Lowndes gets out on cold tyres, or the 3 Red Bull drivers all jump out on cold tyres and go away so nicely with it, and that's because they get so much information fed to them that they control it. Here's how the start took place again. Watch that green multicoloured extravaganza up against the pit wall on the second row there. That's James Winslow, Kim Burke and Chris Perini. Perini off the left-hand side in the black and red car. For those Bomber fans, sorry about last night, but that's the colours, that's the livery he's got on board. And around through turn 1 he goes.
Keep an eye on Rowan Ross too. He's dropped back now to position 5. John Collins in the green and white car he shares with his mum, Sue Hughes. They finished second yesterday by virtue of that unfortunate penalty for Nathan Kumar. But Rowan Ross was very quick in the opening laps yesterday, and Chris Perini pointed that out post-race.
That's down to pit lane.
Yeah, Sean, we heard before from a son in a father-son combination. Let's hear now from a mother as part of a mother-son combination. Sue Hughes driving with John Collins. We don't see that often in motorsport.
No, you don't actually. In 2013, we actually did a round, and we are actually the first national mother and son combination. So it's fantastic.
He's doing a good job out there in your car. How dare you let him get and run a start in your car?
I know. That's what mums do. But no, he's great. He won the 2015 Australian Formula 3 Championship, so he knows how to drive. He's giving me tips, so it's all good.
Now, we also noticed you using different surnames. You told me a little story about that. You want to share that with everyone?
Sure. I actually wanted my maiden name out of respect for my dad, who passed away, but he got me started. He used to run speedway cars. So my love of motor racing came from him. So out of respect for my dad, I race under my maiden name. But it confuses people because they look at Hughes and Collins and their mother and sons. Yes.
You're another one of these speedway people making your way out into circuits as well.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. Yes, the ovals, yes, but only dirt ovals. But no, I loved it. I loved the smell of the fuel. I loved everything about it.
Good luck in the race today.
Thank you so much.
Hughes and Collins sounds like some sort of English garage race team, doesn't it?
Or 80s rock band.
Yeah, it could be either that, that's right.
But she's a great competitor. In fact, it was interesting. She said, we haven't raced together since 2013. She just explained that to Cameron. But she said by getting John in the car, they moved the seat. And she said, it transformed the car. I can't believe it. Instead of sitting on the car, I'm now sitting in the car. I feel a whole heap more competitive and more comfortable. And that obviously helps the outright speed.
Further from pit lane with Greg Rust.
As you boys know, there is a constant quest, a constant search for improvements, and Tony D'Alberto, that session was a little of that for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Generally, I'd put Max in that session to make sure he's ready for the race, but we had to make some changes to the car overnight. So I wanted to try and assess it myself. We weren't happy with it yesterday, and it certainly hasn't made any worse, but it's very hard to assess whether it's actually made it better. So, yeah, we've got a little bit of time to find on those Audis down the road.
Without giving too much away in specifics, what were you working on?
We're just lacking overall balance of grip level. I think the track this year doesn't have quite as much grip, and we've come here with a very stiff setup. So I've just tried to soften it off a little bit, and hopefully that helps us for the longer the race.
And I love the fact that sometimes you need a bit of old school stuff too. I've just seen Max Twigg with a hammer out trying to make the seat a little more comfortable for him.
Yeah, well, you're super loaded coming on the straight and off the straight here, so apparently something's digging into him, so he's just using the hammer to try and smoothen it out.
And being the good fella you are, you would have told him just to harden up. Have a good afternoon. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
8 seconds the lead now for James Winslow at the front of this field. Pace is dropping off a little bit, 1:32.0. I've got an apology to make from yesterday. We were talking about the benchmark for the lap record for an SR3 around this circuit being a 1:31.00 for Peter Patton. It's not. It was the man who won that race, the only race that Patton didn't finish last year. Out of 12, he won 11. He had a DNF here. Michael Shaw went on to win that one. Michael Shaw is the fastest ever man. Michael, if you're out there listening, my apologies. I'm glad you didn't hear me wax on yesterday about how good Peter Patton was, but well done to you. It's 1:30.5, so that's the benchmark. Yesterday, if you looked at James Winslow's opening time after he took over from Yasser Shahin and stormed out of pit lane, how far back was he? 20 odd seconds. Worked his way back forward in the field. They ended up winning the race, but his second lap was a 1:31.2.
Yeah,
I think it was a 1:31.2.
Yep.
And he said, you won't believe this, Sean. He said the tyres got colder, not warmer, because they made some changes, dropped the pressures again, and that's the big key. Obviously, it's tyre pressure getting the tyre up to temperature versus how much you're going to wear the tyre out over a 50-minute race. But they took that effort to try and get the pace out of the car, and he said the tyres actually got colder, so the lap times got slower, which was quite staggering. The other thing he didn't like admitting, which hopefully he's not listening, he's out there in the car, that's good, I can say. He said, I felt a little bit sore after that accident, of course, in the LMP3 last year that put him into a hospital bed for 4 months. He's back racing, lost none of his speed, but he said I get a little bit uncomfortable at night time as the body starts to relax. But he said, overall, I've really lost nothing. I just want to get back racing and be behind the wheel of the car.
He's probably better in the tropics than down here at the 12, 13 degrees. The old bones start to ache and get a little bit sore and tired, but James Winslow certainly doing a fantastic job out in front of this race. As we've got more from the lane with Greg Rust.
We'll endeavour, Darren, to catch up with him a little later in the broadcast, but I know, having spoken with Sean yesterday, this is a super impressive performance. And let's not forget, it wasn't, all that long ago that he had that massive injury and accident, James Winslow, at Yas Marina. He's more or less defied the doctors in terms of recovery time, and he's got a great motor racing CV from Formula 3 in this country, racing in the United States and at places like Le Mans. This is really good for him as he kind of gets his career back on track, boys, isn't it?
Yes, James Winslow he's synonymous with Australian motorsport. Wow, live pictures back there to see Kim Burke just wobble on his wheelbase there, getting through turn one. One of the real daunting parts of the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit is getting through turn one and then trying to point it and straighten it up to get up to the left hand of the challenging off-camber entry and exit to turn two there. But Kim Burke gathered it all back up. He's got John Collins right behind and Chris Perini in front. So this is the battle, I guess, behind James Winslow, who's now 10.5 seconds up the road. He has to do that, Chris, because of the compulsory pit stop that he has to do.
Well, this is the battle for the championship. Forget James Winslow and Yasser Shahin. Great to have them in the field. Brilliant to have James fit and back. They're not in this championship hunt. The championship hunt is really between the 81 car and the 68 car. Now, the interesting thing here is Kim Burke has to get a move on. He loses 15 seconds due to his success so far in this championship. There's compensation times during the compulsory pit stop. He's stationary for 80 seconds. The man in front of him, who's the only man left now really in this championship, 65 points back, Chris Perini, stops 15 seconds less. This is going to give him a huge advantage. Now, it's interesting, yesterday, Chris Perini had dramas. Now, we've got a couple of apologies to make from yesterday. One of them was that we noticed Chris Perini drop back. He got cleaned up down at Southern Loop in a battle with Peter Clare. We didn't see that, threw him off. Second time he got caught up, coming into pit lane for his compulsory pit stop. Nathan Kumar hadn't done one before, so came to the line and basically stopped on the line. A charging Chris Perini was washing off speed, had a stationary car in front of him, locked everything up, stalled the engine, took him 15 seconds to get it going. He therefore wound up at the rear of field. The car was not great after the contact with Peter Clare down at Southern Loop. That was the reason that put him back. The other apology I've got to make, of course, is Nathan Kumar. 24 seconds back on that opening lap, we surmised maybe he'd had a spin on cold tyres. It wasn't, of course. He left pit lane. Still finished second in that race. Unfortunately, got scrubbed post-race for just being a fraction underweight. Rules are rules. He has to live by that. Started rear of field now, currently in position number 7. And he'll work his way forward. 1:33.9 is probably not quite the pace we expected, but his great pace yesterday was towards the closing stages of the race.
I would suspect his incoming set of tyres has been set quite high, so he's actually looking long-term in the race, the last stanza of the race, to become fast, which is where he did yesterday. And I guess using that youthful enthusiasm as well will help certainly push that latter part of the race. John Collins now 1:33.2. Kim Burke 1:33.23 and a 1:33.41. So Chris Perini's holding down second place on the road, but in fact the two guys behind him have set faster laps in this race. 6 laps now done. The cold tyres haven't slowed down James Winslow. They'd be starting to come up now. It was around about that 7 or 8 lap time where the tyres started to come back to some of the less experienced drivers than James Winslow, and they started to really push that pace forward. I tell you what, though, they've got to try and abate that lead that James Winslow is running away with out over 12 seconds now.
Well, the thing he needs to make up is something like 45 seconds. 45 seconds during the pit stop on Kim Burke. That's why he's charging off into the distance. It's just set a 1:31.9, which is the benchmark for this race, and really pushing that 66 entry, the RS SR3 RS of Chris Medlin. Chris not here this weekend. There's a couple of drivers who had double duty this weekend, were unable to be here, and that's had a bit of an impact on the field, but it hasn't made it any less competitive. Mitch Nielsen on screen, not too far away from jumping in behind the wheel of the 38 car, taking over from Father Brad. So we've got a father-son combination in Brad and Mitch Nielsen, and we've got a mother-son combination, of course, with Sue Hughes and John Collins. 13.5 seconds the lead, James Winslow, still punching out quick laps. Interesting to see where is he on the circuit. He's just coming through the final corner. As over the top of Lukey comes Chris Perini with Kim Burke and John Collins in close contact. Now, Rowan Ross, where's he? Yesterday he had a brilliant start. We were talking about him earlier. He said, I just got physically tired towards the end. He said, I could punch out the laps early, then I lost the plot a bit in the middle and started to recover towards the end. And he did a great job, of course, the reigning New South Wales Supersport Class 1 champion. So there we have Chris Perini on screen leading Kim Burke in that multicoloured effort with the Mark Webber-esque helmet, and behind them John Collins and Sue Hughes sharing the car that finished second outright yesterday.
Good shots from the pit lane down there. Crew's even using our live streaming there, Sean, to stay on top of things going on track, because they're hidden away in a freezing cold bunker. Sometimes they can't even see the straight behind them, so keeping up with all the pictures that are coming out via the Nationals live streaming. And really good inclusion if you are at the track and you can't make it to the following rounds of the Shannons Nationals. You can always keep up with us via the live streaming, as Greg Rust is absolutely churning up and down pit lane.
You know I love it, boys. I'm just wanting to catch up with Ben Eggleston, in fact, about the repairs to one of his cars here after an incident yesterday. A bit of a setback, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been a little bit. I mean, Luke did a really good job in the first part of his stint, and then Yasser jumped in, made a small mistake at the last corner, and made pretty heavy contact with the wall coming onto the straight. So it's been a decent repair, but we got it done for qualifying, which is the main thing, and the car seems to be pretty good now, so we'll just press on and try and make up for lost ground.
I think it's a case also too of a bit more work required beyond Phillip Island. The boys have done a superb job. How much of how difficult is it for the boys to deal with, or it's okay for the race?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few bits and pieces on the car that simply you can't take off it. The few bits that are actually part of the car that needs to be cut out afterwards. So we've basically got the car back as straight as we can, bodywork fitting as well as it can, and we're going to press from them. We lost a bit of time in that practice session to try a few things, so that put us on the back foot a bit, but obviously the car was pretty quick then, so fingers crossed we can chew through the field and get up the front.
We know that Luke Yulden knows how to win in places like Bathurst. We hope it's a nice afternoon for he and Yasser Shahid. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
So Chris Perini just in the back of shot there, lost the back of this battle between Kim Burke and John Collins, and he's actually disappeared about another 10 seconds back down the road just whilst we were talking with Ben Eggleston there. So he's gone backwards. He's gone back up the pace, but coming out of MG just bobbled and nearly stopped off the driver's right.
We saw that during practice and qualifying, and actually in the closing stages of the race, as John Collins fires up the inside of Kim Burke. Kim doesn't close the door. He's not in the championship, John Collins, so Kim Burke's a very smart racer, spent a lot of time working on data and he's driving, watching onboards, working with his driver coach James Winslow this weekend. Smart man, he's not going to get involved in that sort of thing. Here's Perini on screen, comes through MG and seems to have lost all power. The car I was going to talk about is the 38 entry of Brad and Mitch Nielsen as the pit window now opens. They had a drama electrically, which actually shut them down. They lost about 30 seconds in the last two laps of yesterday's race, and that dropped them right out of contention. So we saw them drop right down the order. That again happened down at Southern Loop. They need to cut Southern Loop off, maybe just put an end to the straight, turn left, head down to Honda, then we'll be able to see things. It won't be such an issue.
I disagree, Sean. I think Southern Loop's a fantastic corner, just that we can't see it. That's
it seems to be where the problems start. Josh Hunt on screen, another of the drivers involved, of course, experienced campaigner, racing Carrera Cup this year, talking with Mitch Nielsen. And that is one of the beauties of this series, is you've got driver coaches up and down pit lane, guys like Chris Pither, Carl Reindler, Josh Hunt. We've had a lot of great stars. Tony D'Alberto's another one. Nathan Antunes have been involved in coaching these drivers. I was looking at Peter Clare's time. Peter's really only in his second year of the Cup. There he is on screen in the 47 entry, the shared runway car, immediately ahead of Nathan Kumar. His quickest lap so far, Peter Clare, a 1:33.9, which is about 3 seconds quicker than he went last year. So these guys are learning. It's interesting. Nathan Kumar, Formula 3 experience, prototype experience, 1:33.9.
I tell you what, a guy on a massive learning curve is Yasser Shahin. He's got James Winslow in his ear in the Radicals, and he's got Bathurst 1000 winner Luke Yordan in his ear in the GT. So he's got plenty of experienced help. Young drivers, you know, these guys are still under 40 years of age. That makes them young in my books. So they certainly helping him out. And there's Yasser Shahin just in the background down there getting himself ready as well. So there's Sue Hughes. She's definitely ready to go on carbon fibre helmet as well. And here comes that battle that Sean's been talking about with Claire and Kumar. Matching the times of the guys at the front. Everyone now been into the 33s except James Winslow, who's into a 31 and working well.
31.8 now, so he's taken another 10th off his quickest lap time. Last time around 32.1. Interesting to see when they pull him in. Now somebody's coming down pit lane. The glare makes it a little bit difficult to pick up. That could be Chris Perini. It was a dark coloured car. Or it could in fact be race leader James Winslow. Rowan Ross crosses the line.
It's Kim Burke.
It's Kim Burke. There you go. And Chris Perini perhaps behind him.
Perini as well.
So remember too that Kim Burke loses 15 seconds to Chris Perini, and Chris has not done his championship much good so far this weekend with the drama as he had yesterday, and we just saw the engine seemingly drop power coming out of MG, or coming through MG rather, so that will have set him back a little bit. Just needs to get his head in the game. He got a little bit flustered at Bathurst after a brilliant opening round. He was all over race leader Peter Padden and made Kim Burke's life a real difficulty at Mount Panorama on his debut in the Radical. In the second race, he had an opportunity to get past Kim Burke, who held him up. The car wasn't quite to Perini's liking, of course, prepared by Garth Walden Racing. And he pushed himself too hard and had a big lose on top of the mountain, stuck the nose of the car into the barriers across Skyline, and that was game over, unfortunately for him. But he felt that that's because he'd pushed himself too hard. In fact, he came up to lap Peter Clare, I think, was the problem, and across the top. Peter had nowhere to go. He was doing his level best just to follow the curves of the circuit. He wasn't worried about the guy gesticulating behind him saying, let me through, I'm on a hot lap. And I think a bit of red mist caught out Chris Perini at that stage, and that caused a bit of a problem. Learnt a lot since then. One of the nicest guys he'd ever talked to, but like Kim Burke, the man on screen there, very serious competitor. Now here comes Chris Perini down pit lane. He's going to go straight past the 68 entry of Kim Burke. Kim's going to be held there for another 15 odd seconds.
Of course, Alan Jones does some work with Radical from time to time as well, but it's pretty clear that from Kim Burke's helmet that if Mark Webber's ever got a spare weekend, they'll be able to share the same helmet, won't they? Really cool tribute to our Aussie grit, Mark Webber, as he heads back out on track and hopefully does the helmet design proud.
Peter Clare immediately ahead of Kim Burke as they exit pit lane. Now Chris Perini can charge on. Be interesting to see where everybody ends up. Looks like Nathan Kumar now coming down pit lane. He started last. He's now in position number 4. He's got a bit more pace left in him, I think. He's been a great addition to this field. Hasn't been racing all that long, 28 years of age. Been racing 3 years, done a bit of F3, obviously. You've seen a bit of him over recent years. And, of course, is up in Asia racing in the LMP3 series. Time to wave to the camera. Thanks, Nathan. Good to see you.
Focus, Nathan.
Doing a good job, son. Just press on. He was very impressive yesterday, and another emotional driver, very serious about it, and jumped out after qualifying, threw the gloves and went away, had to think about it and came back. No change in attitude, but very serious about what he's doing. You can see he wants to get going.
Greg Rust in pit lane.
Sean, Darren, I think both of you boys flagged with Peter Clare that maybe he started this race with slightly higher tyre pressures. You're absolutely bang on. The crew down here have... they wanted to, at the start of the race, just give him that comfort, make sure that he had good rubber underneath him. They've done a re-pressure during the stop and sent him. He seems happy.
An update, guys, for you. Brad Nielsen was told by the team to come in and pit, so he put his son in. Unfortunately, radio issues have meant he stayed out on track, so hopefully they can get him in before the pit window closes.
He'll certainly have presence of mind to know that he has to come in at some stage, and it'll be about this time in the race.
That said, I remember a very historic event at Sydney Motorsport Park back a few seasons with one Tony Haggerty. He stayed out and kept out because he was in front. Didn't pit once during the 50-minute race. Met the checkered flag. jumped out, pumped his fists and was immediately disqualified.
Yeah, that's it.
You've got to pit. That's the whole idea of a compulsory pit stop, is it's not an optional pit stop. So I know that Brad Nielsen would know all about that. Maybe time-wise he's not got the clock working in his head to know that the window is open. He'll see that and jump in. He was very impressed with the efforts that the team were waving the board. I think he's got a case of the Tony Haggertys. And g'day to you, Tony. I'm sure you're listening in. I've seen you posting on things from over in Europe.
Real shame
this
that
weekend,
the Haggertys aren't here, actually. The HRT.
Tony was third in championship points coming into this one, so be great to see him back a little bit later.
I tell you what, when Chris Papadopoulos puts his big arm out through the wall and waves the inboard at you, he'll get the message, that's for sure. Even Chris pops his head out between the barriers and these guys will go, oh, what's going on? Best to go and see what Chris wants us for.
Again, talking about the value of Radical Australia Cup and all the infrastructure and resources they have. Chris Papadopoulos, of course, took a couple of victories in Formula One, championship victories, working for the Renault F1 team. He is responsible for the R8 Motorsports team, the preparation behind this crew, and he is a great resource for the drivers and the teams to improve their abilities. This is the access that you have with such a great category like Radical Australia Cup.
He had to drag personality out of Kimi Räikkönen, so he can drag speed out of anyone if he's done that. Kimi Räikkönen was, of course, the driver he worked with, and world champion as well, Kimi Räikkönen. So Chris Papadopoulos knows his
that
way.
is Rowan Ross off hard. Now, where is that? Down at Southern Loop? That is quite a big off. He's come wide. See that tall frame of Rowan Ross moving around in the car. He'll be unstrapping himself and likely step out. That's an unusual one. Now, where was he on track? Maybe pushing on. He hadn't made his stop. He was in position number 3, veteran of the series. And you can see he's gone into the tyre barriers. They've done their job. These Radicals are a mighty little car, very strong. And that has brought out, I should imagine, safety cars. Certainly yellow flags down in that part of the circuit. Oh, off on the grass, gone in wide, crossed the gravel, been a bit of rain, so may not have retarded too much. It's done its job, certainly. Tyre barrier's done its job. And not great for Rowan Ross. That's a reasonable hit. And for the reigning State Series champion of New South Wales in Class 1. Now, compulsory pit stop window is still open. That has brought both James Winslow and, at last, Brad Nielsen down pit lane. So safety car out. This crack safety crew will go and check on Rowan Ross. Of course, a long-time campaigner with a Radical, loves these things, and down to his third car this year. He's bought the new RSX.
James Winslow's going to get in the passenger seat and do some No, he's not. He's getting out over the that side of the line. So our BMW Melbourne safety car is on track. We thank BMW Melbourne for their assistance with the safety car right across the 2018 season with the Shannons Nationals presented by Morris Finance. And here is Yasser Shahin helping himself with the belts, and it's down to Greg Rust.
Boys, we mentioned before, of course, that Yasser is on double duty this weekend. Ben Eggleston recounting that story yesterday, unfortunately, of the incident in the GT car. So while he gets strapped in, I thought I might grab a quick word with James Winslow. Were you talking about tyre pressures there? Are you a little unhappy or something at the moment?
We set the car up very high tyre pressure so I could be quick at the beginning of the race. Since we have such a huge time penalty, I needed to be 3 or 4 seconds lap quicker than everyone for the first 5 laps. Then towards the end, it may go over, which is what I planned. So it all went to plan. We just tried to make hay in the beginning of the race and give Yasser as much a chance as possible.
I could see lots of kind of consternation from the crew here a minute ago. Was this safety car about when you wanted to do this stop or not quite on the mark?
Well, you're not allowed to stop on the safety car, but I was already in pit lane. Yep. So for us, it was perfect.
Okay. How are you feeling, mate? It's great to see you back behind the wheel.
Thanks, man. I feel it. It's high G here, so it's good training for my unconditioned neck after my crash. So it's great training and feeling good.
Good job.
Thank you.
We're now going to hear from Brad Nielsen. They were just about to throw the board at you, Brad. Did you have a radio issue?
Yeah, we did. I'm not sure what happened. I think our comms line disconnected. So I wasn't sure when to come in. And we've had a little shift issue today. So coming out of MG, I missed a gear. So that put me back about 10 or 12 seconds to get it back down and back up through the gears. But apart from that, all good.
Must be a bit of fun driving with your son as well.
Fantastic, yeah. Only problem is he's a bit quicker than me, but I've got to get used to that. But he's been really on the pace. So I'm out there to sort of hold the team together a bit. But he's the guy that's speed.
And I think he was telling me that you actually had pulled the radio out just so you could stay in the car longer. Any truth to that rumour?
Could be. It's hard to get him out of the car.
Thanks, Brad.
Cheers.
today. Cheers.
It's game on. We've had a restart and John Collins leads this field around. Now, interestingly, he and Yasser Shahin are shown as 18 laps down. The rest of the field, 17 laps down. Of course, Rowan Ross now having retired. That was the reason for the safety car. John Collins will be in for his compulsory stop. He'll lose that advantage. That puts Yasser Shahin right back in the box seat.
Yasser Shahin currently at the very back of this pack as he joined on after his pit stop. So there he is there, the number 66 in the middle of the back of the shop there behind Rowan Burke. Behind Kim Burke, and then Chris Perini pushing on there as well in the black and red cart coming around through Southern Loop. So John Collins will have to dive basically to the pits this time round to hand over to Sue Hughes, his mum, and she'll be well placed to try and push hard towards the end of this race, but it's going to be very difficult for her to be able to get back on. They are showing that they are on ultimately two of them on the lead lap, which is Collins and Shahin, but Collins will be in.
I reckon that's only 20 seconds left till the pit stop window closes, but it looks like John Collins is going to get to the line in time. That did actually cost at the Bend Motorsport Park, if you remember. It cost James Winslow a potential victory because they got caught by the safety car. He couldn't come in. Race declared short. Because he hadn't made his compulsory stop, they were eliminated from that race. He's in and down pit lane. The pit window has just closed, I should imagine. And there you go. So now Chris Perini leads this field on track, immediately behind Nathan Kumar. Now that is for a position on the podium.
Down to cabin pit lane.
John Collins in the lane. He actually asked the team if he could go for one more lap, and I can tell you they could just about hear him, or he could just about hear them from the lane as they screamed to him, box, box, box. So John Collins is now in just in time.
Yeah, just in time, maybe not, may have just missed that. In fact, the 15 minutes did tick over before the timing screen lit up. That will ultimately be the judge of fact on that, but we will wait and see how that transpires. But it's been a great drive for John to get out in front there as the race continues on track. And this is actually live and championship type stuff for Kim Burke. Yasser Shahin not quite so much weighing in on that championship status, but behind him is the Nielsen car, which is definitely doing that championship this year.
Well, Yasser doesn't need to get to the front of this field. He's at the front of this field. He may not be physically so far as what we can see visually in that pack. He is leading this race by effectively a lap, but he's a racer. He wants to get through. Kim Burke's a racer too. He may not know exactly what's going on. He might think he's defending for position. He's also in the championship hunt. The one he's watching is the guy further ahead of him, Chris Perini, and he wants to keep him within sight. There is the unfortunate side of the Rowan Ross machine just being recovered immediately below us. The tilt trays just brought it back, but they're a tough little car. If you had to say that car would be on track tomorrow, if we're having a race tomorrow, I'd guarantee you it'd be right there.
Well, Rowan Ross dinged the car up there at Tailem Bend and got back out on track as well. Joe Ladoni and Christian and the guys worked very, very hard to get the car back out for him. So there's no more opportunities here this weekend, but certainly you would expect that there's spares to be available to rectify that car and get it back on track. Rowan Ross, of course, led the race yesterday. We took photos of the timing screen to give him. It was Rowan Ross to James Winslow, and hopefully he's got that information now and treasure that sort of thing going into the future.
Well, he'll need something to remember this weekend by. Sue Hughes now rejoins, so she will be further back down the order. Classified position 7 currently, so they lost that advantage they had. And fortunately for James Winslow, 45-second deficit to Kim Burke, the points leader, because of their success yesterday and because of his grading as a professional driver. That put them a little bit further back behind the 8 ball. The only thing that could save them was a safety car, and it couldn't have been timed any better.
And being that he was in the pit lane, that's helped him as well. Cameron's in the pit lane as well.
I've got John Collins given the all clear on that pit stop, mate. I heard you were talking to the team about trying to go for one more lap. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit of a confusing situation as to whereabouts we were time-wise. So, I couldn't quite hear the radio call if it was to pit that lap or go one more. So I thought it was better to play it safe than sorry. So, we came in that lap.
That safety car really came at a bad time for you, didn't it? Just missed out on getting into the lane in time for that pit stop.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate one. When the safety car came out, I asked how much longer we had left, and we would have been out only 4 or 5 minutes. So pretty bad timing, but Mum's out there now, so hopefully she can have a good run home.
Let's talk about that father and son just down the lane, and and mother and son. It's a wonderful combination.
It is indeed. It's a bit of a family environment here at Radical Australia. So no, it's not our first time racing together. We've done it twice. So It's great to be able to have that opportunity to race down here alongside Mum and help her get up the grid a little bit as well.
The last question I've got for you, though, is do you help coach her? Does she listen to her son?
A little bit. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky coming from me. So yes and no. I give a little pointers, but I don't want to overdo it or whatnot and put a lot of stuff in her head. So yeah, minimal.
Thanks, John.
No worries, thanks.
This is a brilliant battle going on screen. Yasser Shahin, Nathan Kumar and Mitch Nielsen. In fact, now Peter Clare's in the middle. Where has Nathan gone? He was in the middle of that. Oh! He's just run a little bit wide, Mitch Nielsen, and cleaned up one of the marker boards on the side of the circuit. That shouldn't slow him down too much. But Nathan Kumar, they were 3 wide at one stage coming down the main straight, battling for position. Now this puts Nathan Kumar back into second in this race, and he'll be hoping to hang on to that after the disappointment of yesterday.
Taking out a couple of our new sponsor on board signs there with pace as he comes out of Siberia, gasses it up a little bit early. There's the momentum swing and it just understeers off and bang, Pace Constructions. They're going to have to get the glue out and put that all back together. That's going to be a horrible jigsaw and we'll take some time to clean up before our next session on track, which of course will be the AMG session.
And here is James Winslow keeping a close eye on things, talking Yasser Shahin through everything. And this will be valuable too for Yasser Shahin for the 101 race a little bit later in the day. So interesting too to see what went on there. I wonder whether or not Mitch Nielsen was just trying to avoid the rear of Peter Clare's car just coming through that stage. He's still in this battle with Yasser Shahin and it's very racy. He may not know, in fact, that Yasser Shahin is that lap up on him, so that's not quite for position, but certainly these guys are all racers. Even Sue Hughes said it to me yesterday. Once she gets in the car, there's this thing called red mist, which we all know about, and it tends to come down, and logic goes out the window. She just wants to race, and she just wants to go out there and race hard.
No quite feeling in the world like that red mist coming down and getting out there, or as footballers call it, white line fever, step over it and get out amongst the game. Certainly you wait, there's more time waiting than there is actually racing, so when you get out there you need to be well aware of your surroundings. Just getting a bit of a feeling that the checkered flag is being readied down there, so we may not be going the full distance in this race. There is still 9 laps remaining. You don't normally see the officials getting the flag in their hand quite like they are right now, but we'll see as that transpires what happens. But it is Yasser Shahin leading over Nathan Kumar again in P2 late in the race. Chris Perini, well, this is the last lap we're being told, so this will go the way of Yasser Shahin, and pick up where Yasser is around the track. Here he is coming down the straight now, and checkered flag has gone to Yasser Shahin in car number 66, so he will take the 23 lap race. Checkered flag has been displayed, and Yasser Shahin will take that victory. We have to wait for the rest of the field to also take that checkered flag, Sean Henschel would, but that was a masterful play of the game, coming in or being in pit lane as the safety car was dispatched.
From behind the 8 ball to well and truly in front of the 8 ball and back to back, which is very rare in Radical Australian Cup. This season, of course, in past seasons, it's been very much back to back with Peter Padden, 3 championships on the trot, but he's not here this weekend. That's opened the door for a new star. We call him the new sheriff in town. That is Kim Burke. So his championship is well and truly alive, but well and truly the new sheriffs in town for this weekend have been Yasser Shahin and James Winslow, and perfect tonic for James Winslow too in his recovery from that accident he had last year that saw him in a hospital bed for 4 months, and he'll be enjoying this despite a little bit of discomfort. Nice to be back in the winner's circle. And second overall may well be Nathan Kumar. He's coming through the final corner now. On screen, Chris Perini will be back on the podium. This will be satisfaction for him too after a disappointing day yesterday. And Kim Burke, well, he's going to more than likely take the maximum points that he can from this weekend and essentially extend his points lead again over Perini heading to Sydney Motorsport Park for the next event.
I don't think Yasser Shahin saw the checkered flag because he's coming around to give it a second grab at this point in time. This is Yasser coming down to the line now. He has taken the victory. The flag did come out very late and it was only sort of held quite high. So these guys sit very, very low. So he's taken the checkered flag twice there, and that rounds out the Radical Australia Cup for this round 3 of the Shannons Nationals. and certainly still plenty of racing going on with Radical. Sean, you mentioned yesterday, still not confirmed, maybe the first weekend in November, Radical's back here at the island.
That still is to be finally confirmed. It's one option, also Sydney Motorsport Park, but of course we will definitely be back 21st and the 23rd of September at Sydney Motorsport Park for what will be the 5th round of the championship. And there it is, Yasser Shahin takes the win from Nathan Kumar. Chris Perini, Kim Burke, Peter Clare, great result for him after disappointment 12 months ago here. Mitch Nielsen and Brad Nielsen, John Collins and Sue Hughes, and Rowan Ross unfortunately had that DNF a little bit earlier in the race, 14 laps down, but he's up and about. Unfortunately for the 88 car, a little bit of work to do before Sydney Motorsport Park.
Yeah, so Rowan Ross did some damage in the earlier round to his brand new SR3 RSX. He's been quick in it and has parked it against the wall, unfortunately a little bit hard today. Has been rescued, brought back by the Pike recovery crew. Here's the start of the now 42-minute race for the Radicals. Chris Perini up against the wall there with James Winslow right behind him. Kim Burke got away nicely. They crowded them all up. They're going to go 3 wide. There's James Winslow, the multicoloured extravaganza, puts his nose down the middle there, gets rid of Kim Burke and then dispatches Chris Perini as they head into turn 1.
We heard from James Winslow during that stop. He had high tyre pressures to make sure the temperatures came up quickly. He knew he needed 3 or 4 seconds a lap advantage over the rest of the field. Of course, the crew watching on and those many people around the world keeping track of the Radical Australia Cup this year. What another great race we've had. And that allowed Winslow to pull out a great lead, but it was only 12 seconds. He needed 45 seconds over Chris Perini. And then Chris Perini had that drama, an electrical issue. We'll find out a little bit more about that. Keep up to date with all the website and the social media platforms. We'll find that information out. John Collins fired up the inside of Kim Burke and took the lead away. And he would carry that lead through to, well, the safety car, which came out as a result of this. Down at Southern Loop, Rowan Ross, the veteran in the series, put the 88 car fairly hard into the tyres. He climbed out, as we've seen so many times with this category, a very safe car, and he came back to pit lane. We had the restart. 1 lap was all John Collins had. He got to the pit lane before the compulsory window closed by a matter of tenths of seconds and handed over to his mum. But by that stage, they'd been 45 seconds behind coming into the race. They left pit lane with a lap lead, Yasser Shahin in the 66 entry. Great battle he had too with Mitch Nielsen, who was forced to avoid the rear of Peter Clare. Battle for position, cleaned up a couple of the signboards on the outside of the circuit, carried on, and he would take the 38 car to position number 6 behind Peter Clare on track. In the end, though, no one could stop the steamroller that was the 66 entry of Yasser Shahin and James Winslow.
Took a very, very comfortable victory in the end, played the strategy out nicely, and going back down to the pit lane to Cameron.
Yeah, we've got our race winners just rolling in, making sure we don't get run over here as well. James Winslow, as Yasser gets towards the scales now, congratulations on that race win.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fantastic race. We planned strategy-wise to be very quick at the beginning of the race. It's obviously a cold day at Phillip Island. Very rare for it not to be raining, but it's dry, so the air's very cold, so the tyres and the brakes were very hard to get hot. So we blanked everything off. We ran massive high tyre pressures to try and give me a massive advantage for the first 5 laps. Tried to make hay where the sun was not shining, and it worked perfectly. Rather than being 4 seconds off the pace for the first lap, I think I did like one of my quickest laps on the very first lap of the race. Made a big lead, and then the tyre went away, went 4 psi over target pressure, but you lose half a second in that circumstance as opposed to 5 seconds at the start of the race. And then with the safety car on the shortened race, it worked perfectly.
You're relatively physical out there as well with the aero here at Phillip Island. How's the body holding up?
Yeah, after the crash and been laying down for 5 months and no gym work or anything, actually more physical than I ever thought, to be honest, because all the aero's taken off, so there's less G-force than you would have in a Formula 3 car here or anything else. So surprisingly more tiring than you think, but happy that I held up and managed to do my stint pretty comfortably.
Congratulations again. Let's go to Rusty.
Thanks very much.
I'm with second place Cam, Nathan Kumar, and I know yesterday when you and I caught up, you were just pleased to be in a race car. Yeah. Perfect way to end the weekend at Phillip Island.
Yeah, you can never bat an eye at a podium, can you?
You were a little unhappy with yourself in the lane though when it stalled during the pit stop, but that's about the only minor glitch, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I was just a little bit too eager to continue on.
You're a guy with experience in Formula 3. What's beyond Phillip Island for you?
Hopefully we're heading back to China later on this year to continue on the FRD LMP3 series. So, yeah, looking forward to getting back in one of those cars for sure.
All right, congratulations. There he is. And, of course, Chris Perini, good points in the championship.